What's good people, and welcome to the Silly, Nerdy, Sometimes Wordy podcast, and I'm your host, BK, and this is episode 39, a look back at the NFL Free Agency AFC teams, my thoughts. And this episode will be covering the NFL Free Agency from the AFC side that started off earlier this past week, and I'm going to talk about some AFC teams, new players signing with new teams, new players going to other teams, new teams via trade, and we'll talk about some of the re-signings as well. All right, what's going on, everybody? I hope everybody is doing well. I know it's been a while. Glad to be back doing another episode, and let's get into the nerdy notes. And before I get into that, first I want to say thank you to everyone. On March 6th and 7th, 2023, I released episode 0 and episode 1 year ago earlier this month. So thank you for everyone that has listened and downloaded, both domestically and internationally. Thank you very much. Hope you continue to listen. I appreciate everyone, and thank you for my wife and her best friend for encouraging me to do this. So hopefully I can make it to year 2. All right, some NFL news. Starting off out of the NFC North, the Detroit Lions have given contract extensions to their head coach Dan Campbell and general manager Brad Holmes. They have been extended through the 2027 season. Also, a few important NFL dates upcoming. The annual league owners meeting will be taking place later this month, March 24th through the 27th in Florida. And then, of course, the NFL draft will be happening next month, April 25th, Thursday through Saturday, April 27th. And, of course, prior to that, the NFL Pro Days are currently happening all month long in the month of March and early to mid-April prior to the draft. Okay, now let's get into our main topic. And NFL Free Agency has been happening, and I want to focus this podcast on the AFC and hoping to do another podcast focusing on the NFC moves. So I'm going to go division by division, and we're going to start off in the AFC East. And I'll just mention, I'm just a normal guy. I'm not an insider. I don't work in the space, but I'm a fan. I pay attention to some things. And so just giving my thoughts on these moves, these trades. So AFC East. Let's talk about the Miami Dolphins. And they have made some moves. And let's go back to the regular season, late regular season. They had some players that suffered some season-ending injuries late last season. And, of course, I'm talking about edge rushers Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb. They both respectively, unfortunately, torn their Achilles and torn their ACL separately. Phillips torn his Achilles. Chubb tore his ACL at the end of last season. And so right now they have the 21st overall pick in the first round, and a lot of the talent evaluators are mocking them an edge rusher. So what did they do in free agency so far? Focusing on the defensive line and the edge rushers, they have signed some defensive linemen, Neville Gallimore to a free agent deal, Jonathan Harris to a 1-year deal. And again, I want to say first that I'm not going to have the terms of all of these deals. Some have the terms and some don't. So continuing on, they signed Shaq Barrett to a 1-year deal up to $9 million. And also, they got edge rusher Jordan Brooks. He signed a 3-year, $30 million deal. Anthony Walker, 1-year deal. So they did some things to shore up the defensive line. Of course, Phillips and Chubb are rehabbing post their surgery, so it's a good chance that they may not be ready for week 1 when the season rolls around. Maybe they will. So hopefully they will be back, and we will see who they draft in the draft upcoming next month. All right. Moving on. And also, one last thing, Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa, their starting quarterback, he is due for an extension. So it's very possible, and they've been talking about it, insiders, that he could have his extension done later this offseason, perhaps later this summer. So he is going to get paid as well. So we'll see what money Tua gets and his extension. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Okay, let's talk about the New York Jets. And I want to focus on them because they had, everyone was so excited to see Rodgers and what he's going to do. Unfortunately, as we all know, he only lasted 4 snaps. And so what have the Jets done in free agency? Well, they learned their lesson. They went after a backup quarterback. They signed Tyrod Taylor to a 2-year deal worth $18 million. Solid backup. He's been a backup for a long time. And Zach Wilson is still on the roster. However, they have given him permission to seek a trade. At this point, there has been no movement on that. There has been no trade partners for Zach Wilson. So we'll see how that goes. It's likely that maybe he will be released later this offseason. So we'll see. Or maybe they will keep him. So we'll see how that goes. The offensive line was also a problem for the New York Jets last season. And this just came down a little bit a while ago, but the offensive tackle, formerly of the Dallas Cowboys, Tyron Smith, he has signed a 1-year deal up to $20 million. So that will be helpful for the offensive line as well as Aaron Rodgers. Also, they brought in Morgan Moses, acquired from the Baltimore Ravens, and they are getting Morgan Moses, the tackle, along with a 4th-round pick for this year's draft, number 135 overall. And the Ravens are getting the 4th-round pick for Morgan Moses. They're swapping 4th-round picks, as well as the 6th-round pick for the Ravens. That's what they're getting in return. So focusing in on the offensive lineman as well as the backup quarterback for the New York Jets. They made some other moves, but I wanted to focus on them. And one last offensive lineman, John Simpson, he signs a 2-year deal up to $18 million. Okay, and like I said, I'm not going to talk about every single team. The Buffalo Bills, they did a few things, but nothing worth mentioning because they had to release a lot of players to get under the caps. They had to let some people go, unfortunately. And the Patriots, we will see what they do. They have a high draft pick. I will say that they did trade Mac Jones to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So we'll see how that goes. They brought Jacoby Brissett back to a 1-year deal up to $8 million. And they re-signed one of the quarterbacks, Nathan Rourke. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah. Okay, so that is the AFC East. Let's move on to the AFC North. I've heard they call it the black and blue division, I believe. So it's a tough division. And let's go to the Baltimore Ravens. And the big one is Derrick Henry, formerly of the Tennessee Titans. He signs a 2-year deal for $16 million. The max value is up to $20 million. Derek gets $9 million guaranteed. And that is a good deal going to a good team. He looks like a Raven. He fits that culture. He's going to fit in just fine. It's going to make their offense even more dynamic, more dangerous, especially with Lamar progressing through the passing game this last season as he has, and his ability to continue to run the ball. And that's going to make them even more dangerous and help this offense. I would imagine that Derrick Henry is not going to have to carry the ball as often as he has in the past, which will help prolong him, especially late in the season and into the playoffs. So I think that's a really good deal, good signing to get a player of Derrick Henry's caliber. Okay, moving on to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have done some things. The Pittsburgh Steelers, they signed Russell Wilson to a 1-year deal, and the unique thing about this is that they only have to pay Russell Wilson $1.2 million because the Broncos wanted to part ways with Russell, so much so that they're willing to pay his salary over the next 2 years and take a $85 million cap hit. So the Broncos will be paying Russell Wilson $39 million for the 2024 season, and then $37.79 million for the 2025 season. They're spreading their cap hit over the next 2 seasons. So that is an upgrade for the Steelers. So we'll see how it goes. Now, they've done some other things as well. The Steelers have also traded their former first-round pick, Kenny Pickett. He's been traded to the Philadelphia Eagles, along with a 4th-round pick for this year, 2024. The Steelers are receiving a 2024 3rd-round pick, as well as a two 7th-round picks in 2025. So that's what they're receiving for this Kenny Pickett trade. And the Steelers were not finished. The Steelers also traded away their wide receiver, Deontay Johnson. He has been traded to the Carolina Panthers along with a 7th-round pick. What comes back to the Steelers is cornerback Dante Jackson, as well as a 6th-round pick. So Deontay Johnson, gone. Kenny Pickett, gone. So they have tight end Pat Freiermuth. They have George Pickens. And, yeah, we'll see what the Steelers are going to be doing in the draft. And their draft position, the Steelers, let's see what order they're in. I believe they're in the 20s. Right now, the Steelers are number 20 overall in the 1st round. So we will see who they draft. And if I take a look at who they have mocked in terms of talent evaluators like Daniel Jeremiah, Bucky Brooks, I'm using NFL Network Media folks. And right now they have the Steelers mocked to draft an offensive tackle, Troy Fatu, can't pronounce that name, but an offensive lineman right now. So we'll see if that changes, but that's who they have. One person has mocked to draft. If I look at another evaluator, it's a Bucky Brooks of NFL Media. He has the Steelers mocked right now taking an offensive tackle as well. So we will see. Now, I will say there's a few honorable mentions. The Cincinnati Bengals, they not much there to talk about except for T. Higgins. He was designated the franchise tag. However, per reports from multiple insiders, there hasn't been any contract talks, and so T. Higgins has requested a trade. So we'll see how that goes. Of course, they have to pay their other number one receiver uh, coming up, which his name escapes me. And you guys know who I'm talking about, out of LSU. But he's going to have to get paid. And so we'll monitor this T. Higgins and see if they do trade him or if they somehow are able to pay him as well. And also a few mentions in the AFC North. The Cleveland Browns, they signed Jameis Winston to a 1-year deal with a max value up to $8.7 million. Base is $4 million. So Jameis Winston to back up Deshaun Watson. They also made a trade, the Cleveland Browns. They have acquired wide receiver Jerry Jeudy, former first-round pick, coming from the Denver Broncos. And what they get is Jerry Jeudy. They also get a 5th and a 6th round pick. They're sending, a 5th and a 6th round pick in the 2024 draft to the Denver Broncos. So Denver Broncos cleaning house. Jerry Jeudy was a good player. He was thought of. I remember them talking about how he was an excellent, one of the best route runners coming out in this draft. So I think this is a good deal for the Cleveland Browns. This gives them a young receiver and a fresh start for Jerry Jeudy. Hopefully he can get together. So he's still young. So we'll see how that goes. He's joining the wide receiver core with Elijah Moore, Amari Cooper, tight end David Njoku. And of course, we will see hopefully Nick Chubb can come back from his injury that he suffered late in the season for the Cleveland Browns, the running back. So, yeah, that's just a mention I wanted to mention. They traded for Jerry Jeudy. And also linebacker Devin Bush, he signed a deal with the Browns. Okay, that is the AFC North. Now, let's move on to the AFC South. But before I do, there is one more thing I forgot to mention, that edge rusher Patrick Queen, he joined the Baltimore Ravens, I want to say. Edge rusher Patrick Queen. He's joined the. Just give me one second. Oh, sorry. He joined the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's coming from the Baltimore Ravens. He signed a 3-year, $41 million deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers, coming from the Baltimore Ravens. So that's a very good upgrade for the Pittsburgh Steelers, which already have a great defense. So that's going to be very good for them. So, yeah, forgot to mention that. So Patrick Queen joining the Pittsburgh Steelers on a 3-year, $41 million deal. I don't have the guarantees on that. Okay, now let's move on to the AFC South. Let's start with the Houston Texans. And they have acquired running back formerly of the Cincinnati Bengals, Joe Mixon. And the Texans get Joe Mixon along, and the Texans send back a 7th round pick, which is number 224 overall. But the big get for the Houston Texans is edge rusher Danielle Hunter, formerly of the Minnesota Vikings. He signs a 2-year, $49 million deal. The max deal is up to $51 million, $48 million guaranteed. So big get for Danielle Hunter and the Houston Texans. And he goes aside the rookie rookie edge rusher Will Anderson Jr. So that's going to be a formidable defensive line. So they're going to be able to get after the quarterback, stop the run. They also got linebacker Azeez Al-Shanair. He signed a 3-year, $34 million deal coming from the San Francisco 49ers. So we will see how this defense goes. And as well as defensive lineman Danico Autry, he signs a 2-year, $20 million deal, 10.5 guaranteed. So the Houston Texans are going to have a good defensive line, even better than they were before. Of course, they got their rookie quarterback, which was really great. So we'll see how he progresses as he moves forward in year number 2. Moving on in the AFC South, I want to talk about the Tennessee Titans. They have made some impressive moves as well. So let's talk about it. The first move that they made was running back Tony Pollard coming over from the Dallas Cowboys. He signs a 3-year, $24 million deal. And they also got backup quarterback Mason Rudolph. He gets a 1-year deal with a base value of $2.87. It's up to a max value of $3.62 million. And we'll see how the quarterback position there goes. Will Levis is the guy right now. And perhaps Mason Rudolph will push Will Levis, or maybe he's there to be the backup. So we will see how that goes in training camp. And of course, the bigger get that came later on, a couple of days later, was wide receiver Calvin Ridley. Now, he was on the Jacksonville Jaguars, and a lot of us thought that he would come back to Jacksonville, or he would go to the New England Patriots. But ultimately, a secret team, Tennessee Titans, came in and swooped him. And so he goes to the Tennessee Titans on a 4-year deal, $92 million, $50 million fully guaranteed. And also, Tennessee is a tax-free state, so that's nice too. So big get for the Tennessee Titans. He pairs with Treylon Burke, young receiver, as well as DeAndre Hopkins. So good weapons there for Will Levis and Mason Rudolph. We'll see how this offense goes. And those are the big moves for the Tennessee Titans. Elsewhere in the AFC South, not much to talk about. I mentioned earlier that Mac Jones was traded to the Jacksonville Jaguars to back up Trevor Lawrence. And other than that, they got Gabe Davis. He came over from the Buffalo Bills. He signs a 3-year, $39 million deal. Max value up to $50 million. So obviously the Jaguars did not get Calvin Ridley to return. So Gabe Davis can slide right in there. So we'll see how that goes. And they also got another big get. Defensive lineman, edge rusher, Eric Armstead coming over from the San Francisco 49ers. He signs a 3-year, $51 million deal. So big get for their defense. We'll see how that goes. And the Colts, I'll just mention, they signed a backup for Anthony Richardson, their young quarterback. Joe Flacco, he gets a 1-year deal up to $8.7 million. 4.5 guaranteed. So good backup for the Indianapolis Colts, since their former backup is now with the Raiders. And then they also re-signed their number 1 receiver, Michael Pittman. He signed a 3-year, $70 million deal. Max up to 71.5, $46 million guaranteed. So he was initially given the franchise tag, but they were able to work out a long-term extension. Okay, moving along, let's go to the AFC West, home of the Super Bowl, back-to-back Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. But first, I want to talk. Well, yeah, let's talk about those Chiefs, Super Bowl champions. They've done a couple moves, obviously re-signing their defensive tackle, Chris Jones. Quite frankly, he was a big reason they won the Super Bowl, making those two key stops down the stretch in the fourth quarter. Chris Jones, he gets his deal, re-signs 5-year, $158.75 million contract, $101 million guaranteed. But I want to focus on the two offensive signings. Marquise Hollywood Brown comes over from the Arizona Cardinals. He signs a 1-year deal up to $11 million, providing some speed on the outside. And I feel like with him going there, it's going to make Patrick Mahomes is going to make him better. And I'm sure he will be able to utilize him as well. That improves the wide receiving core because they struggled most of the season. They also get tight end Irv Smith. He signs on a 1-year deal. So that's going to help a lot. I'm pretty sure it's a good chance that they're going to draft a wide receiver. Obviously, the draft position for the Kansas City Chiefs, as is with the Super Bowl champion that wins, you're the last pick in the first round. They are number 32 overall. And as I look at some of the Italian evaluators to see which players that they have mocked for the Kansas City Chiefs, most likely I want to say it's going to be a wide receiver. So let's see. Daniel Jeremiah of NFL Media, NFL Network, he has the Kansas City Chiefs drafting a wide receiver, Troy Franklin, out of Oregon. He has him going to the Kansas City Chiefs. And as I look at Bucky Brooks, partner in crime on the Moves the Sticks podcast, great podcast if you like NFL information, Bucky Brooks has the Chiefs drafting, actually he goes on a different route. He has them drafting an edge rusher, Darius Robinson, defensive lineman out of Missouri. So we will see. And then one last Italian evaluator, Lance Zerline, he has the Chiefs drafting mock to let's see the position that he has. Right now on this particular mock draft, he has the Chiefs going on the defensive route. So he has them drafting an interior defensive lineman, defensive tackle, Jazan Newton. Wide receiver Xavier Worthy. He has him drafting Xavier Worthy. And if you remember, if you watched the NFL Combine, he was the one that set the record with a 4.21, 4.5, running the 40, excuse me. So he was the one that set the record. So we'll see how he goes. The defensive player that I mentioned earlier, Jazir Newton, he is being mocked to the San Francisco 49ers. So error on that part. So that is the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC West. Next, I want to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. They made some moves. Obviously, they have their new head coach in Antonio Pierce, former player. And they sign Gardner Minshew, formerly of the Indianapolis Colts. He signs a 2-year deal worth $25 million, $15 million fully guaranteed. So he goes there to potentially be the starter or backup. They could draft a quarterback as well, move up a little bit. So we'll see what they do there. But they got a good insurance policy in Gardner Minshew. He's been pretty solid. But the big get for them is defensive tackle Christian Wilkinson. Comes over from the Miami Dolphins, and he gets a 4-year deal, $110 million, $84.75 guaranteed. Now, him paired with their edge rusher that they have on the outside, Max Crosby. Paired with that edge rusher, it's going to be a dangerous duo with him on the outside and Wilkinson on the inside. So we'll see how that goes. But we have to see what they're doing at the quarterback position. They need to figure that out. Maybe they're in the Justin Fields sweepstakes as well. I don't know, but it's possible. We'll see what happens. And right now, the Las Vegas Raiders, let's see where they are on the draft position in the first round. As I'm looking, they are at position number 13 overall in round one. So they're not in that upper echelon to get one of those quarterbacks unless they're willing to get whoever lands at 13. Perhaps they will make a move to get into the, let's say, top 6, top 5. Or perhaps, like I said, they will go to the Justin Fields sweepstakes. So, like I said, they are currently at position number 13. And as I look at some of the mock drafts, let's see who they have in this particular mock draft. So Daniel Jeremiah has the Las Vegas Raiders drafting a defensive player, cornerback Teron Arnold right now. So mock draft 2.0. And we'll just look at one more mock. Let's look at Lance Zierlein and see who does he have the Las Vegas Raiders drafting. He also has a defensive player, but this time on the defensive line, defensive tackle Byron Murphy II. So these two evaluators have the Raiders drafting defense. So we'll see what happens. But that's the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, not much to say about the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, they have a new coach. They had to release some players to get under the cap. So wide receiver Mike Williams, he was released. That saved them $20 million. And they also traded away their longtime number one receiver, Keenan Allen. He was traded to the Chicago Bears. And the details of that trade, as I come to that, they traded away Keenan Allen for a 4th round pick. And Keenan Allen, I believe, is more than a 4th round pick. But that's what the Chargers get. So that's going to be a good receiver for whoever is going to be the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, whether it's Justin Fields or Caleb Williamson. So whoever is going to be there. But yeah, the Chargers traded away Keenan Allen. And then Austin Eckler, they didn't keep him. He goes to another team, which I will talk about later in another podcast. The Chargers did sign running back coming from the Baltimore Ravens, Gus Edwards, to a 2-year, $6.5 million deal, $3.375 and guaranteed. They signed a couple of tight ends, Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst. Will Dissly has a 3-year deal, $14 million, $10 million fully guaranteed. Hayden Hurst deal, the terms of that deal is not disclosed. So that is the AFC West. So that's the AFC West. So some things going on there. Of course, we will see what else other signings happen, and also we'll see what happens in the upcoming NFL draft. So that's all I have for you today, and this is just for the AFC. I'm hoping to do another one of these focusing on the teams in the NFC. And so we'll see what teams have done. So moves are still happening. We'll see how that goes. So I hope you enjoyed this. This is a little different. And please come back. Listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts. Tell a friend, share it, and come back in see me sometime. All right. So until next time, we will talk soon.